Alright guys, TJHaLy here, back again today, and yesterday CWL Miami concluded eUnited walk away with a trophy, something that honestly I don't think that many people were predicting for this event. The names that were going around for this event were probably, 100 Thieves of course being the favourites, and Luminosity people were thrown in the hat. eUnited for me I think went slightly under the radar here. Of course they were the best team in the Pro League in terms of their record, but I don't think too many people were talking about them as being favourites for this event. But really when you look back on it, it makes a lot of sense considering the SMG buff with Sin pre-Miami and the teams that it helped and the teams that ended up, making the finals, coming top 4 at this event, have really deadly SMG duos. And we're going to go through exactly how eUnited did it today, how their run happened, of course. Massive congratulations to the guys, and also to Clayster. Has to be probably the biggest story here, really, is that Clayster, 1400 days without a Call of Duty event win, all the way back in Advanced Warfare, where he won his last one, I think, in like 2 best of 7s over OpTic Gaming. Didn't win in Black Ops 3, didn't win in Infinite Warfare unless you count that early PlayStation X Invitational thing, didn't win in World War II, and now it takes nearly to the end of the Black Ops 4 season for Clayster, a legendary Call of Duty name, to finally get another title under his belt. So, massive congratulations to him. He may not be everybody's cup of tea, but at the very least he deserves respect for what he has achieved. So, fantastic performance from the guys this weekend, really impeccable stuff. It really went down to the wire, had a great grand final, so yeah, we're going to go through it all today. Like if you guys enjoy, subscribe if you are new. As always, I would greatly appreciate it. And let's hop right into the matches. So going into the final day, there was only 4 teams remaining. Of course, we've covered the defeat of OpTic, 100 Thieves, Splice, Heretics, Luminosity and Evil Geniuses. We covered those in the last couple of days. So, well, the final 4 were Gen.G, FaZe, Reciprocity and eUnited. Now, eUnited and FaZe came into the final day, both guaranteed top 3, whereas Gen.G and Rec were in the losers bracket. So this is how it went down. The first series, Gen.G Reciprocity, and pretty much in this series it was the tale of Dylan not quite having the performances we would necessarily expect from him. They still managed to win a map. Map 1 was honestly pretty damn close, but to be honest it felt like Gen.G were comfortable in this one, and with Dylan not having his best series by any means, that pretty much tipped the balances. If Envoy's putting up a 1.72 and Dylan's putting up like half of that, then it's pretty much a recipe for disaster. But Reciprocity is still a good performance this weekend. Obviously they still have a lot of potential. Just an off series for Dylan, to be honest. Like that's the thing, you can't expect him to dominate every single series, but of course the series he decides, not necessarily decides, but the series he doesn't dominate in is the one where they're playing Gen.G, second best team in the game arguably right now. Of course they've come top 2 at the last 2 tournaments. You've got to respect it. And Envoy is something else. He played out of his mind here. The whole team played great, and they looked very, very convincing, to be honest, in this series and also in their next series. But this next series was probably the biggest one for the tournament. This was eUnited versus FaZe Clan. Truly unbelievable how close this was, and of course this was an unbelievably important series given the context that usually whoever wins the winners finals goes on to win the championships, because you go into the grand finals with that entire 1 series cushion. So map number 1 was insane, 250 to 247, really came down to the wire, but eUnited took it. I thought that FaZe had a chance. Honestly though, this series, Zero had a pretty horrible series, and also it must be said that really the entire team's teamwork just didn't seem to be there like it was on the Saturday. So it just really felt like FaZe didn't particularly turn up on this championship Sunday. Personally, I thought they had a great shout of beating eUnited and winning the championship. I thought that this, to me, felt like their opportunity, but they go incredibly close in the first couple of maps. They nearly brought back the search and destroy. Credit to these scoreboards goes to codstats.gg. I'll leave their link down in the description box below. So map 3, FaZe, I think they pulled a reverse sweep in this control to make it happen. So very exciting stuff. I'm pretty sure it was on Seaside. Yeah, indeed it was. It came down to a 1v1 at the end. So these maps were incredibly close. 250 to 247, 6-5. eUnited really, I guess, clutching up when it matters. But then in the control, in the 1v1, FaZe came out on top. But then game 4, rather uncharacteristically, it was honestly mind-blowing the way this happened. You would have thought that the momentum would have been heavily in favour of FaZe. They've just won that very clutch control. It's time to turn it on again, bring back the series. We know how good FaZe Clan are in their hardpoint gameplay, but yet on Arsenal they got completely wiped off the face of the earth. It really put it was an unfortunate way to end the series, really, considering how exciting the rest of the series was. But eUnited smoked them, so they move on to the grand finals, and of course eUnited going into the grand finals for the third time this year. The first time was at Vegas, where they came from losers against OpTic Gaming, where they lost. Second time was at London, where they came into against 100 Thieves from losers, where they lost. This time they would come in from winners. Gave them a much better chance. Now, FaZe got taken down by Gen.G. This was, you know, the hardpoint was comfortable, and, you know, really FaZe were just not having the same teamwork that Gen.G were. This Arsenal hardpoint just was unbelievable for Gen.G. I think Envoy called out some of the FaZe clan vetoes a little bit, saying how this frequency control is not something you want to let in against Gen.G, and I guess Envoy has good reason to believe that with his 1.7 AKD over the course of the series. This guy was a monster, and there's just no touching him when he's on form. You know, the question for who's the best player in the game right now, at least who's the best SMG, who's the best Sorg, I think it would have to be between Envoy, Simp, and probably Dylan would be the top three, and maybe because Simp won this tournament, you're going to give it to him, but definitely Envoy and Dylan, in my opinion, deserve at the very least honourable mentions. So we'll have to see how going into champs how things develop. But yeah, Gen.G continue their reign of terror through the losers bracket in, knocking out FaZe. FaZe Clan, of course, they come top 3, a pretty decent result considering they didn't even qualify for the league. Remember, this organisation, of course, they didn't actually buy the spot. As far as I'm aware, they got the spot for free from Red Reserve or something along those lines. So, good stuff from FaZe. They do make it happen, and yes, top 3, not ideal at all. I really thought this was their chance, but it doesn't work out in the end. And Gen.G move forwards again, having swapped out Nagafen for Spacely. Sorry about the lines on my face for a second there. I'll just close the curtains a little bit at this time of day. It's not ideal for the lights coming through the blinds. So yeah, moving onwards from this series, we now had only 2 members or 2 teams left in the tournament. This was the series 1 of the grand finals, and of course, Clayster in his first grand finals, or his first grand finals from winners since all the way back in Advanced Warfare time, I think, or a long time ago, and it did not start well for him. Now, this map number 1 was very controversial, and I wanted to talk through this. I'm going to go through exactly the results of the tournament, then we'll go on a little bit to the controversy. But pretty much what happened here was that, okay, Gen.G won, well, they didn't actually win the map. It was 240 to 208, something like that. Gen.G were in control of the middle hill on Arsenal, and Clayster, his arrow on the map, stopped moving. And, you know, he apparently disconnected from the server. And not ideal, of course, by any means. The Twitch chat was memeing it, calling him, like, Unplugster, as if he'd, you know, deliberately unplugged his controller so that they could get a replay. The rules pretty much state on this issue that if there is a malfunction with the equipment that the league provides, rather than the own equipment that you have, if it's a malfunction with, I guess, you know, the PS4s or the monitors or something like that, then a review will be conducted, and as long as you, if you're complaining, don't end the game, if you end the game, you'll be auto-DQ'd, but as long as you don't end the game, then a review will be conducted, and you may well get a replay. Now, of course, the controversy here really was that Gen.G were on the verge of closing out the map. It was like 240 to 210, they had full control, there was a hellstorm coming in, but it probably wouldn't have done much. It seems very likely Gen.G would have taken it, but there is that like 10% chance that eUnited could have broken. So to some degree it's difficult to give the map outright to eUnited, or to Gen.G even, but it's really a problem that I wish we didn't have. And you could, you know, restart the game from an exact same position you were just in, like you can in CSGO, for example. But look, eventually, Gen.G, it came round, Gen.G had to play it again, and they smoked him second time. This was super impressive to me. Like, a team that can come off that kind of, well, that difficulty, like, it's very easy to lose full in that scenario when you are basically on the verge of closing out map number 1, especially when you need to win 2 series anyway. So, you know, you do your very best map number 1, and then it comes to you again, and you fry him even harder. 250 to 120, impeccable from Gen.G, and they ran away with the search and destroy as well. Great performances there all round. I'll put some clips on screen from time to time throughout this video when I have something that's relevant. And then in the control, Gen.G closing out as well in a very close fashion on Arsenal, and this is a mind-blowing map as well. And I think actually this map had an incredible round where Havoc did like a slam, and then Gen.G didn't lose a single life in the control, and it really built their momentum to bring this control back around, and Gen.G took the series in a 3-0. So of course, great composure shown by Gen.G over the course of this series, and it was eUnited's turn in the second one, because they get the 3-0 over Gen.G here. This was controversial as well, because Morks does the following tweet After the event is over, Guy blue screens halfway across the map with no time to make it to the hill, and we do a full replay. This is talking about Clayster in the first series when he blue screened, he couldn't play. A blue screen just means like basically a malfunction, so you stop working, your PS4 stops working. My controller somehow broke before the first map started, which is talking about this second series. I call a ref and immediately he hands me a damn paperclip. I'm so hurt. This is not fair. I don't care what anyone tells me. Obviously, a little bit of salt's going on here because he's just lost the tournament. But, to some degree, a lot of people were like, fair enough, maybe. And General echoes a similar thing. He says, lol, 3 times back-to-back on main. I had to deal with this kind of BS out of my team's hands. His monitor turning off, JetLi's Cronus screwing up, Mayhem's PS4 having constant frame rate bad delay. JetLi even says I had a bad box. This has been a talk for a couple of years, people having bad PS4s. Maybe it's something I'll deal with later. It's a little bit too conspiratorial for my liking. But, maybe there is some truth to it, who knows. So I'll have a look at Anamapacella's response in a second, but effectively, the way he responds to this is to say that, look, if it's your own equipment, which it was Morks' controller, then if you're complaining about it, or not necessarily if you're complaining about it, but if it malfunctions, it's on you to have a spare and have a replacement. And as Anamapacella says, we might as well just look at it now. So he says, in response to some of these things, a league-provided piece of equipment malfunctioning can lead to a restart. The player peripherals, so player controllers, are the responsibility of the player. They're encouraged to have spare equipment on hand. You may remember in the league, a seam swapped a controller up mid S&D round kind of thing when his stopped working. And the follow-up tweet is probably more relevant. So someone says, imagine buying a scuff from the scuff booth, it makes 10 minutes and they say that's your fault, which is, interesting point. But, I think Anamapacella's response is kind of a key one here. Imagine referees having to restart a match every time a player said their own controller wasn't working. We have to create rules that erase subjectivity and minimize the chance for potential cheating, which I think is fair enough. Obviously not saying Morks is trying to cheat here. Obviously he's got an unfortunate situation with his controller not working or whatever exactly the issue is. But there is obviously a grey area here, and I'll be interested to hear what you guys think in the comment section below. So, eUnited win map number 1, 250 to 120 on Seaside. It's Seaside, so literally it can go any which way at all. It just comes down to single rotations on the Fountain Hill, and you can run away with this kind of game. Morks was actually the only guy positive on their team, I think, for the majority of it. So it's interesting the fact that, he was complaining about his issues, whereas, okay, maybe you could argue that the rest of the team were just thinking that they would, a restart was imminent, so why bother trying? But still, difficult situation. Now, in the search and destroy, eUnited closing out 6-5. Very, very close stuff. This is, I think this was technically 6-4, not 6-5, because once again, there was a glitch on the search and destroy, such that Envoy jumped over the fence. He could have got the 1 versus 2. He just needed to kill the bomb diffuser, didn't get it. But eUnited, I think, one of the teams had been awarded 2 rounds. It was Gen.G that should have only been awarded 1 round. So it looked like 5-5 on the scoreboard, but it was actually 5-4. Don't know how this problem is still a thing, but eUnited closed it out in the end, and just a great moment, between the two twins, Priestahh saving his brother, defusing the bomb, and then Clay and Co closed it out 3-0 in the control. Wasn't even close in the end, so congratulations to eUnited. Chance Morks eventually does a tweet, so when he's calmed down a little bit, basically. A little late, but GG well played, eUnited finished second. So proud of the team. Unfortunate circumstances. Can't wait to hit the stage with my guys again. So yeah, I'll put some of the images on screen of when eUnited walked away with the trophy. And yeah, these are the final standings then. eUnited walk away with it, $500,000 to their name. Gen.G in second place for the second tournament in a row. Clay finally getting something. Simp gets the MVP. And really this was the story of the SMG duos. Abizi and Simp, currently the undisputed champions of the SMG duo category, if that's even a thing. Havoc and Envoy right there as well. Zuma and Asim I think were very good and as well this weekend. And Reciprocity have Dylan, of course. They're always going to be scary. That's kind of what I'm worried about with 100 Thieves, to be honest, what I talked about in this, in a couple of weeks ago, that yeah, with Priestahh and Enable, maybe that is a cause for concern for you 100 Thieves fans. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new, as I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.
They did it! eUnited are your 2019 Pro League champs!
Congratulations and well-deserved. Clayster, today had marked 1,400 days since your last championship win. How does it feel to break that streak?
I'm not even thinking about that. I'm thinking about getting these two their first win. I'm thinking about winning with the Twins for the first time, winning for eUnited. This means more than anything to me. Thank you, guys.